Thank you. How about a hand for my friend Jimothy Quick? Jimothy Cunith Quick coming out, riveting you with that introduction. This is beautiful. I'm happy to be here. How are you guys today? I actually don't care, but I should ask it. I mean, I do care. I want you to be good, but if you're pissed, I can't do shit about it. So, okay, I can't swear I can. Okay, just shit. Just two shits. That's 3. So that's it. Other than that, I will not swear. I'm a comic. I've been doing comedy since I was a little kid. As the video showed you, I started doing it when I was 12. So there's habits. It's very bizarre to be in one night in a dirty comedy club in Dayton, Ohio, and then be here with crazy people. So, but you guys are the transformational people. You're the good ones. Like, you guys show up and actually do work. But there's a lot of seminars that are only inspiration. You know what I mean? And that's just like getting the P90X video and then watching other people do it. And you're like, wow, those people got really fit. Like, that's cool. And you go to the seminars and all you do is plan the entire time. You got the best plan. You go, I got it down. I'm going to do this 90-day diet. I've got it. I heard a lot of stories about why I should do it. And you go home and you're just so good at planning. You're like, everyone, I'm going to do the 90-day diet. It is going to be awesome. I'm going to go 90 days. Starting in a few days, I'm going to go 90 days. But first, I'm going to have some cake. It's going to be awesome. But after the cake, I'm going to go 90 days. And then you go a couple more days. And now you've lost the excitement from the seminar. So I'll have one more day of cake. And then your diet is actually making you fatter. Like, that's what people do all the time. I like these people, though, because you guys are nodders. I like that. You know what I mean? Whenever someone says something that's the inverse of the thing, you know what I mean? You'll see two people look at each other after, like, they'll be like, remember, you can flugel a goon, but you can't goon a flugel. And everyone's like, But it's about actually doing the work, right? Which is so effortless if you do it. Most people don't do the work. They just announce it a lot. You guys, I'm going to do this thing. I've changed. And then now you don't shave your armpits and your name's Rainbow Maca Sunshine, but you haven't changed. You just wear longer coats and there are more beads, and now you stare at me for a long time. You know the long starers at these seminars? They go, I want, And you're like, are you hearing me at all? It's like more, I want you to just know that I'm hearing you. That's what I'm hearing you right now. That's the most amazing thing with it. I know. And then they hug you for like 10 minutes. They're like, I love you. I love you. I love you too. There's a line of people, though. I got to go because there's a line of people. It's about the action, man. This is so important to me. This stuff is real. This stuff is actually real, but you have to be transforming. That's what I'm starting to get. It's actually doing it. I've been a comic since I was a little kid, and in 2004 I was touring. I did 68 colleges in a row. Every single day, literally, was 2 flights away from the day before, and I just got exhausted. I was crazy exhausted, and I got my first anxiety, and I started getting dizzy on stage, and then out of that, I started getting suicidal. Which was great because I got low enough to where I needed to learn what caused it, right? I got really crappy and felt like crap, and then I learned what caused it, and all of a sudden understood this matrix that exists, and I started achieving holy crap stuff. In 3 months, I went from suicidal anxiety to #1 Comedy Central special in 3 months just by being aware of it. And then a couple months later, I started doing this again, and I kept going, and I was like, how good does this get? A couple years later, I had the #1 highest rated Comedy Central special again of 2009, right? And I was like, wow, like you can do anything if you plan it and you can achieve it. And then I started going, how good does this get? So you start living in the future, just going, what's next, right? I got to get the next thing. You aren't enjoying anything because you're so busy going, what's the next thing, right? And so you're in the future the entire time, and you live in fear, and it's actually still hoarding. It's a great place to be, though. It's like the second level of this, because most people are in this fear-based place, right? They're in this place where everything happens to them, right? It's because of the economy. It's because of this stuff. And then you learn what causes it, and we go into this achiever, holy crap, I can do anything world. But the problem is you start to think you're your accomplishments. And that's why you start to be around these people that have their arms crossed, like, I own all these cars. That's who I am. I own every car. I own every one of them. You're like, wow, that's a lot. And you're like, yep. That's who I am. I have all these cars. And then like, well, what if one of them gets stolen? Like, well, how? I don't know. Like that's, your happiness is now dependent on your cars. And people live in this accomplishment world, right? So I started understanding how to accomplish all this stuff. And I was like, I want to teach other people this. So I started working with the comedian Louis Anderson. And I started teaching comics how they could become achievers, right? And there was one thing in me that was always happening. I really cared a lot about what people thought. I cared so much about because here I am, the only comic. Comics are negative. A lot of, obviously, that's why they're funny. They're like, because everything sucks. So here's this one guy who's all positive, right? And they're so real that they think everything is a scam, everything's BS, right? And I would teach this seminar to these comics. And I would hear through the grapevine that a comic that was a friend of mine was talking bad about me. And it started horrifying me, right? I would hear it constantly. And I remember being with Louis Anderson, the comedian, going, I have this thing in me, after doing an event that was so cool. I was like, I have this thing in me where I want to get over what people think. I want to get over what people think about me, and I don't know where it's coming from. And he's like, well, maybe it's your father when you're a kid. And I was like, I don't know what it is. That's how he sounds. And I was like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Like, I just want to get over it. I said that. And then that same day, I go into my hotel room because there was a car about to take me to the airport. And the car is waiting for me, and I just get this one email from a comic, and it goes, hey, you scam artist. I read what this guy wrote about you, and this guy had written a blog about me, a big comic who's very dark, a lot of drug issues, all this stuff. This guy wrote this thing about me, and I just clicked on it, and I read this horrifying, the guy didn't know me. He wrote this email about me that was like so mean, right? It was just so hurtful and so mean. And I'm reading this thing, and I'm horrified by this, right? And so I'm reading this thing, and I'm frozen. And so the first thing I did was I called the car down below. This will get funny. I called the car. You're like, this is a comic? Like, so it's awful. So, and I cried for a week. Good night. No, that'd be weird if that was my ending. But what'd be weirder is if 3 munchkins came in here same time on a unicorn spear, and they were like, what's up? I'm Oprah. And you're like, you're 3 people. So there's weirder things that can happen. But I'm so glad you got that. I did that joke in Indianapolis, and they're like, get her done. Racing's a sport. So anyway, so like you guys get things, and that makes me happier that you understand what I'm talking about. It's weird being a comic and talking for that long without a joke. I'm like, hey, who's this guy? I just need to do that for a minute. So I read this horrifying thing about me, and it's literally like, I want to kill this guy, I want to kill his family, blah, blah, blah. But here's the worst part. That blog he wrote was getting recirculated by all the comics by the hundreds, right? I'm just watching it. And all of a sudden I go on Facebook, and I see people that were my perceived friends just passing it around like, look what happened to Kyle. He became a scam artist. Meanwhile, they didn't even know that for that year, I didn't make a buck. When you run a company, you have to pay for the website, you have to pay for things. I didn't make anything. When I was working as a comedian and performed in Maine, in the middle of nowhere at a community college, that I was doing for the money. No one ever gave me crap about that. When you do anything positive, you must be a scam artist. It's not real, right? So these people are writing the stuff about me, and I'm watching it recirculated, and I'm horrified, right? So I told the car to go without me, and I stayed in the hotel for a week. Not hiding. I knew that I was about to learn something really big. I knew that something holy crap was coming. So I literally sat and just waited because I was in so much pain and I was so scared. And at one point on day 4, I literally had this moment where it's like, I can't do anything about what these people think about me. I literally cannot physically do anything. So I released it. I fly back home, and I try to get my DVD player to play a movie, and it won't play it. It won't play the second movie. It won't play like 8 movies. Finally, the movie Adaptation plays. And there's a scene in it where Nicolas Cage says to his brother, he goes, in high school there's a girl that you really liked, and she was speaking bad about you, and you didn't care. And he said, why is that? And the brother said, because whatever she thinks about me, she can't take away from me how much I love her. And then he goes, you are what you love and not what loves you. And I was in enough pain in that moment to hear that and have everything in my life transform in that minute. I suddenly got, you are what you love, not what loves you. We are people-pleasing all day. We are totally full of crap. When you go, hi, I need to borrow an egg, is that okay? You're totally phony and you're people-pleasing. And if you're people-pleasing, you can only attract takers, right? You can only attract takers or other people-pleasers, and that's just awful because you're like, what do you want to do? I don't know, and no one goes anywhere, right? So I'm hearing you are what you love and not what loves you. And I like, you are what you love, not what loves you. If you are what loves you, you are in fear before you even go on stage or you go into a speech or you go into anything. If you are what loves you, I hope this person likes me, right? I hope I do this right so this person likes me. That's all you're thinking. So here you are, you're able to do anything. When you're with your friend, you can suddenly riff the funniest thing when you're just at a bar riffing about something. And then suddenly we have this forced work planning that we do that's so bizarre. Like, think about this. You're with your friend and you can suddenly say off the cuff, or have you ever been at a place and you see someone crying and you just are there for them and you give the greatest advice on the planet, right? And then you have to do a speech, and it takes 2 months, and you're like trying to structure it, and it's not nearly as good as the person who gave the advice. Why is it different? Because when you're doing the other thing, you're trying to get, right? You're in a place in your mind that I have to do this right so they like me or I can sell this thing. And if you want to get something to be happy, you have to state to yourself that you're in lack without the thing. Right? And that's why we go on dates with someone we like. Or like, you like corn bacon? I can't talk. I don't know I can't talk, but it's weird. And we can't do anything because we're in this bizarre illusion that this person outside of us completes you, or the sale completes you, or the audience completes you. If you can undo that, which you can by starting to practice living the place of switching to creativity and getting off of consuming. Because, and by the way, addictions are so subtle. Facebook is the most dangerous, subtle addiction there is. Because if you go on Facebook, you don't just go on Facebook. It goes on you, right? You go on Facebook. Could you imagine if in the 80s you went to check your mail in the mailbox and a guy popped up, hey, and you could see all of his friends, and 4 of them are also your friends. You're like, oh, hey, I'm just getting the mail. And then one of your friends is like, I want to start a political argument. And you're like, all right. And you start fighting with them. And then every time someone says anything, they keep updating you. And you have to you'll never get anything done, right? That's Facebook. It just has, or YouTube just knows because it just takes you on an adventure. You're like, I want to look at a flower. And you go look at a flower. And then the next video is a guy handing a woman a flower. And you're like, oh, that's nice. And then a guy fighting another guy. And the next thing you know, you're watching a guy break his leg. And it's 8:30 at night. And you're like, why am I tired? So, and the reason is because you don't have your intention. You don't have your thing that you own who you are. And I watch people live in lack all the time. And I watch people a lot of times go to seminars, but this one's transformational, so I bet it's different. But a lot of times I see people go to seminars and then 6 months later go to another seminar because they're addicting the euphoria to the seminar. And they feel so good because of what they heard that they don't do anything, right? They go home so happy, right? So you are what you love, not what loves you. I realized after that, my job is to go to full-on creating and go back to when I was a kid. Because when you were a kid, you just did stuff, right? You literally just created all day. And you weren't sitting here going, what's my list like? Did I monetize this? You just, unless you weirdly fantasized about being an internet marketer, you didn't. Wouldn't that be weird? Like, one day I'm going to beat Frank Kern. Like, no one had that. Like, that'd be... I'm going to monetize everyone. No, it's so... But that's the funniest thing is how many people are checking their lists, right? And worrying about how much can I get? And you're literally living your life like this. And you're holding on to this. And I'm not saying don't take care of your list. But I'm saying if you get into a place of full-on creativity and you let go of everything, the results are so nuts. The results are so nuts, and it only starts when you do it. It gets bizarre because after that, I started practicing. I had to let go of what people thought about me. So I said, wow, what happened? So I started writing and enjoying the process of writing and creating, and I went on stage in Miami the next week after that, and I did 6 shows, and every single show was entirely different. It was the second time in that comedy club's history that they had 6 standing O's, and I didn't care. I didn't care that I got the standing O's. Because when you get to be, you are what you love and not what loves you, right? You don't need any results. Meanwhile, the accidental thing is the results are holy crap. And I find that the only way I can achieve everything I want is by figuring out what I'm holding on to and then letting go of it. And it's gotten to the point where literally I started realizing I had the biggest agency in Hollywood, one of the biggest agencies in Hollywood. They would get me a lot of auditions for movies and all kinds of stuff. And I started realizing this agency is huge, but they aren't in alignment with what I'm doing. They don't understand what I'm doing. They get me auditions. So I'm in the middle of this amazing flow of creating my own seminar, my own event, doing these amazing things. And I have to stop and audition to be the neighbor on a WB show, which one of two things will happen. Either I won't get it, so I wasted my time, or I do get it, so I have to waste a lot of time. I'm going to be on a WB show now. So I realized I don't want to be with them. I want to let go of this. And it was scary because you don't get auditions for movies. You don't get all these things, right? So I told them, I said, I think I'm going to let you guys go. And they were like, no one has ever, are you crazy? We got you all these gigs last year. And they showed me all these numbers they got me. And I'm like, I know, but I don't know how much stuff I lost last year because I thought you had me. Do you get what I mean by that? When you have these things you're holding on to, you don't do the work, right? Because they have you, right? They got it. So you sit on the couch and let someone else run your life. So I was like, no, I'm going to let go of you. I'm going to let go of you. And I was scared. I mean, it was horrifying. But once I let go of them, my fiance in the back, her, so yeah, that's the two guys around her raised their hand. She's for some reason in between two guys. I don't know. But so we're going to wrap this up. Luckily, there's a... Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. So you are what you love, honey. But once... So I let go of them, and there was this bizarre realization that I let go of that. And this thing shifted in me, and my fiance that night goes, there's something different about you. Because you know what happened to me? I was holding on to them for 2 years before that. So I was holding on to every decision. Like everything, that same part of me that was analyzing if I should let go of them, this giant thing that deep down I knew that I should let go of, that same part of me also couldn't decide other things. Like, should we eat Mexican or Chinese? Like, I don't know. Like, I was practicing analyzing all day. And if you have something, my advice, and anyone do whatever you want with this, if you have something that you're on the fence on if you should let go of it, that is an argument between your heart and your brain. Your heart and your fear. Your heart will tell you, you can do anything. You can do what Gandhi did. You can do what Nelson Mandela did. And your brain goes, well, if we break up, I can't go to Cheesecake Factory every Thursday. And you know how much I like that. And your heart goes, that doesn't matter because you can do anything for real. You actually can do anything. And your brain goes, but we were going to go to that camp in 2 weeks. And I like camping. And it doesn't matter. So if you're moving from fear, right? If you're not letting go of something because of what you'll lose, then it's something you should let go of, in my opinion. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense so far? Because here's what happens when you let go of it. Your mind can flow. I haven't planned one thing that I've said tonight at all. I had no clue. Because if I had, then I would be holding on to something, right? I'd be in memory. I'd be like, I have to do this thing and say this joke and go here and then hope there's two guys over there. And I can't. I have to go with the moment. This is how we talk all day. This is how we are all day. This is how we should be all day at work or whatever. But if your work completes you, you can't be that way all day. You have to go into making it work, right? And you go into making it work from fear. And I started realizing that when you go into creativity, not only do all the benefits show up that you've heard about in the last 2 days, but you start transforming for real. I really figured this out, that if you go into a place, let's say you're meditating or writing a book or, I don't know, name it, creating something, you're doing whatever. This is the same board that I wrote on the screen, but I think this is a good point. So picture this shaded area here, okay? There's two yous. There's the consumer-based you, which is the fear-based you, who needs food or the internet or someone to like you or Starbucks, right? If you feel like you need anything, you're in the shaded area. If you feel like you need anything, you're in the shaded area. Like, I'm hungry. You're in the shaded area. I'm not saying you don't get hungry, but if it's an I just want a donut right now hungry, and you're not hungry, it's the place that I went to when I was a kid, I want that food, you're in consumer, okay? But when you create something, when you get into flow and you write a book, or you're singing a long time, or you're answering questions, when you're on a plane, by the way, because you have to cut off your vices, right? The problem is the choice. The problem is that you have that choice of going on Facebook available to you. You have that choice of Starbucks always there. You have the choice of turning on the TV. So that's your problem. But what's great is when you're on a plane or in the shower, you don't have the choice, and that's when the greatest ideas always show up, right? But your mind is tied up. Even when you're not on Facebook, you're on Facebook, right? You're going, I can't believe she said that. Because when you go on Facebook, there's no way to not get into lack right away. You're just like, that person's friends with that person, and there's a party I didn't know about. There's no way to get into that. And you have 500 friends. Really? Really? 500 to 5,000 friends? Have you ever had a party and tried to say hi to 20 people? Could you imagine if you had a party and just said hi to 20 people for 10 minutes? It'd be the longest party. And you have 500? You can't keep up with that crap. So this is the consumer you, right? So you start creating, right? You start creating, and the first 10 minutes, very little happens. Because while you're creating, you're monitoring if it's working, right? Because you're monitoring. You're like, I want to write an assignment. I want to write a pitch for my company. You start writing. You go, is this good? No, it's not. You just started. Let it come out, right? When you're keeping a diary, that's the real you. By the way, this is so important that you find the real you. We're moving into a time where all people want to see is real. We go on YouTube not going, I want to see the best produced video that has amazing content. We want to see someone get hit in the balls by a baseball. So don't think, wow, I got the greatest technology, I got the most amazing video ever, because they get 10 hits. Like, no one cares. They want to see, except for Coney. That one did okay. So anyway, so let's say you create for like 10 minutes, and then you look back at 10 minutes and you go, well, this is what's happened. So here's what you're thinking. The next 10 minutes is going to be like this, right? So you stop. You go, screw this, I can't do it. And then maybe you start and you go on Facebook or YouTube, or you go into some distraction, you call a friend, or you go out and you go to food as a distraction from creating. And then you have to start over. So again, you start over and you keep proving to yourself, if you had gone 20 minutes, now these times are not to scale, I don't know the actual, but my point is, if you keep going and you keep going, eventually what happens is you start to get and live in this bizarre, invincible world where you are confident, you're writing, you're creating, you're doing so many different things, but bizarrely, you aren't addicted to things anymore. There's a weird confidence in you. You make so much more money. You're able to communicate. You lose all your side effects, your fear. You learn stage fright. You know that, right? Anyone who has stage fright learned it. When you're a kid, you didn't have it. You can unlearn it. You just learned it because you were bored and people told you couldn't do all the things you wanted to do. So out of boredom, you started not getting on the stage and living in fear. And that's what happened. So this is a place where you have to get, but you do it by creating and continually allowing the monitoring to show up, but just knowing it's an illusion, because the monitoring is the consumer-based person. Does this make sense to everybody so far? Awesome. So I'm going to show you an exercise that I created that has changed my entire life, and I just did an event with this, and really pretty much everyone transformed completely from this. This exercise is really real, and this is an exercise that I came up with off the cuff, and many psychologists are now saying, you've actually found, because when you tell someone to let go of something, and then they go, how? Which is the opposite of letting go, which is an achiever question, you know what I mean? How do I let go? How do I let go of the mic? I just put it down. But our ego in the consumer world needs a way to let go of it. Does that make sense? It needs a physical way. I need to accomplish even letting go. Right? The ego needs an accomplishment. It's the craziest thing in the world. I can't just let go. I need to tell everyone I did 9 months of letting go and then I let go completely. Versus just letting go of the thing, I want to have a story. So I was on my way to an audition, and I had tied in with that anxiety, I had maybe 5 years by the way, I forgot to tell you, after I dropped the agency, I booked 4 movies. That's all. So I did a show with Jim Carrey and Eckhart Tolle and Don Miguel Ruiz, and in the audience were producers everywhere. And I just did a movie that has the Dalai Lama. Like, it's so bizarre, like how much that happened like a week after I dropped the agent. When I had the agent for 3 years, I had no movies. Before I had the agent on my own, I booked 10 Things I Hate About You and Not Another Teen Movie on my own. Then I got an agent who should put me in every movie, and I got none because while I had the agent, I was in a people-pleasing thing where I believed that they fulfilled me. Does that make sense? So, I'll wrap it, I promise, but this exercise is really good, Jim. Oh, and I have to mention superheroes. So, so here's the exercise. This is a crazy exercise. So I was on my way to an audition, and on the way to the audition, I started talking about the audition. Now remember, I had had maybe 5 years of anxieties tied into the audition. I started talking about the audition as if it already happened, okay? And I talked about what happened, and 2 things happened. One, I put my vision, you know how everyone says envision it and it can happen? Well, if your vision's in the future, the truth is what you do is you envision it, but then you constantly check if it's working. So really 90% of the time you're just analyzing. Right? And you're practicing analyzing. Does that make sense? You're like, I have a new car. Do I have the car? Okay, I don't have it's not working. This is stupid. Okay, I have the new car. It's not working at all. So if you put the vision in the past, in past tense, okay, your mind stores it as fact because you've had actual breakthroughs before, right? So if you start talking about this event and saying, do you remember on Sunday after the Saturday event, after Kyle spoke, when we got wide open and I created this plan and I called a friend and I declared this and I felt so good, whatever route you want, right? It changes everything because 2 things are happening. 1, you store your vision in the past, and 2, you're creating at the same time. Does this make sense? And you're creating so you're not consuming, and so your mind starts to accidentally just lose all those fears and replace it with constant ideas. So if I was like, I was on my way to the audition and I just started saying, dude, I remember when I went into this audition and I was so funny and I nailed it and I was just so awesome and I don't know what happened. I felt so confident and so good. I was just the greatest performer ever and I was so funny. And immediately my mind started closing the loops, like typing into Google, how do I blah, blah, blah. My mind goes, here's how you got there. So no matter how big your vision is, your mind will close the loops to how you got to that. I am not kidding. If you actually try this, right now it's informational, but in a second we're going to go transformational. It will be done in 2 minutes, Jim, superhero. Okay. So if you talk about the vision, and I want to mention that I'm not selling anything, so don't come see me in the back right after this. So. But I'm only going to not be back there for about 20 minutes, and then I have to go. And I only have 50 of those left. It's weird that I'm almost out of those. So the first 10 people that go back there, and you won't get anything. So, but I only have 20 left, so you better hurry, and I won't be there. So, so here's how it worked. So I was on my way to that audition, and I said that, and then my mind didn't just envision it. It felt the actual physical, that feeling shift. You know that feeling? You know what I mean? Where it just shifts. And my mind completely saw the vision as a fact. And then I had already done the audition and I had overcome it, even though I actually didn't physically do it. Does that make sense? So I went to the audition and I just did exactly what I said. If I had said it without feeling that feeling, it wouldn't have worked. But when you store something in past tense, it makes it a fact. And so this thing after that, at that audition, I started doing that with my friend all day. I'd be like, do you remember today when we blah, 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 and we blah, 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 and then we called this guy, and then we got Tony Robbins to blah, 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 and we called Tony, and blah, 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 and literally everything we said happened. I created the highest income, the healthiest, my weight went down, I lost 50 pounds, my mindset, it was weird. Like, it was really weird. And if you do this like a couple hours, like if you start to do it to here, you're like sitting here going, and that's how I got lunch with Obama next week. Like, how do we do this? So real quick, I just want to show you this real quick. So basically, you're going to pick a partner real quick. Everyone pick a partner. All right. Everyone pick who the A and the B is. Okay. So A, I want you to just think of something that you want to have happen Anything. Just pick a thing that's kind of out of your range of possibilities, but it's not I'm flying. Like, we're not going to start ridiculous, but like maybe how you made $500,000 in 2 months, how you, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So pick a place. Maybe pick a place that you want to be in a month from now. Does that make sense? 1 month from now, in a dream place that you want to be. That's still possible, but you've seen it as impossible. Does that make sense? Pick whatever you want, an amount of money, a health level, a relationship situation. Pick only what you want, not what you don't want. Got it? I want you for a minute to look at B. And can I get a clock for a minute? Okay. And tell B for 1 minute, ready, how you got there. Got it? Ready, set, go. Okay, time. Hold on one sec. Time. Did anyone have a holy crap moment? Some people are having it. Some people might not yet. That's okay, because you only did a minute. For the people that had the moment, did you suddenly actually physically see a route that could get you there that you didn't see? Did you get what I'm saying? Did you see a route there? So how you do it is you literally say, starting a month ago when I was at Superhero University, superhero. Like starting a month ago when I was there, I don't know, I left Superhero U, and I just got so happy, and I woke up early in the morning, and I blah, 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 and then I worked out, and then I called these people, and I got all my procrastination things done, and I started feeling really good. Does that make sense? Okay, so after I'm done, obviously you can do this all night. I promise you, if you do this for a few hours, you'll literally see a route to make $1 billion. Like, it's so bizarre. It really is true. Because you start having breakthroughs and you're working from this place. You just did this minute of it. This is the minute you just did. Imagine when you're here. It's bizarre. It really is. So, Bees, go ahead and do it real quick. I got 1 minute and then I'm done. I really want to thank Jim for letting me go a little long. So, ready, set, go. Okay. I understand that a couple of you didn't. I can't get to everybody right now. If you did, make sure that you tell someone who didn't understand it how it works. I'm available to talk if you want to. Jim, I really want to thank you for letting me go a couple minutes long. Jim Quick, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me be here. You guys were fantastic. I love you. I miss us. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.